Hey, vinyl community. I managed to swing by Jumbo Records in Leeds on Friday. Obviously, new release day. And I don't often do that on a Friday, but there's certain artists who, release something, and it's really nice to get it on the day of release. You go to certain lengths for certain artists, and one such artist, for me anyway, is this guy. Neil Young and his new record, Talking to the Trees. And the band he's with is called the Chrome Hearts. Now, the Chrome Hearts, actually, just looking at the band in a bit more detail on the reverse, you've got Mika Nelson in this band, Corey McCormick in this band, and Anthony Lagerfo on drums as well in this band. And all of those lads are actually from Promise of the Real. And that, by the way, is a great album. If you get a chance to listen to that, if you've not heard it, that is really worth a listen. It's excellent. And I'm pleased to say this is excellent too. It's following in the same vein. It's a banging record, and really I just want to talk a little bit about it and sort of assimilate some sort of review. So yeah, as I say, I popped into Jumbo on Friday and had a nice chat with Matt. Great lad at Jumbo. He knows so much about music. He's really helpful, and he's quite happy to listen to me Twitter on as well. So he gets full marks for that. Anyway, I was chatting to Matt, and ironically, he's reading the Neil Young biography at the moment, the autobiography he did. I think it came out in the early noughties, and he's reading that at the moment. So he had a nice chat about Neil Young, about the new album, and what have you. So I left the store quite excited and looking forward to giving this a listen this weekend, which I've promptly done. Giving it a few spins, and it's really good. It's a very intimate, personal record, I would say. A lot of sort of reflection, looking back on his life. He's obviously in his twilight years. In terms of he's had a long, successful, musical journey. He's been in many great bands. He's sort of been the forefront really of rock, and obviously he was kind of labelled the godfather of grunge, and his musical styles sort of take him through country to sort of really angry rock and sort of everywhere in between really. But yeah, I mean, this record's got a very reflective tone. There's a lot of the tracks on here are really sort of out and out country as well. In fact, in terms of its vibe, of its makeup, of its DNA, it kind of takes me back to this album, Comes a Time, which is a lovely record. And I'd say, half of the album really is kind of a nod to that sort of musical framework, really. Very mid-paced sort of country rockers, laced with harmonica and sort of slide guitar and all that lovely stuff. To sort of talk about tracks, Family Life, Silver Eagle, Talking to the Trees, Bottle of Love. Those 4 songs there are all, as I say, really countrified rock, toe tapping, as I say, with the harmonica and the slide guitar, and with really nice lyrics as well. The whole album is really considered, and the lyrics are really strong. The lyrical content is really strong. And he's really wearing his heart on his sleeve, actually. If I just look at some of the words, I think, if we start with Family Life, which is, as I say, is one of those country rockers, he references Ben. That might be one I wrote for Ben, who is always smiles when I sing to him. And I'll call it Family Life when I sing it for my wife, who I love and I adore, and she'll smile for me evermore. I'll sing it from my heart, and that will be the easy part. Sing it for my best wife ever, the best cook in the world. He's what I like about Neil Young is he's never been afraid to say what he's feeling at the time. And all of his albums are really like that. They're all sort of snapshots, little sort of vignettes of that part in his life. There's sort of half of this album which is along that sort of framework of just out and out country rock. But that said, there's some big rockers too, some really big rockers. Big Change is bombastic. It's a big song. I would imagine it would be great live. There's you could really picture Neil and his band really cranking up. The amps and the feedback on that one. There's lots of effects on the guitars, and it's really just absolutely stonking. And just going back to my earlier comment, really, of him being the godfather of grunge, as he was nicknamed sort of in the 90s. Well, Big Change really is a nod to that, and he very much still is. He very much still is into making a noise. Moving Ahead is a really sort of grizzly, rocker, kind of quite in your face in the way that he's singing, quite angry, like some of the stuff off Living with War. It kind of takes a nod to that for me, at least. And Dark Mirage is another rocking song, and you can see that's really. I love the stuff that Meek and Elson does. As a side note to Neil Young, I think the band The Promise of the Real, and I think his production abilities to his dad stuff that he did recently, and Willie Nelson. I think he's a really talented guy. Is Meek and Elson, and I think. There's a lot of influence in some of these songs, and particularly Dark Mirage is I can see sort of Mika pushing that song a little bit in the studio and making it what it is, with the chants and the vocals and the background repetition. It very much is like Promise of the Real, I would say, to my ears anyway. The most beautiful song for me on this album is... Well, there's lots of great songs, but the one standout for me is First Fire of Winter. I don't think I'm over egging the pudding by saying First Fire of Winter. It kind of, to me at least, it sort of reminisces Helpless, which is a classic Neil Young song, and it's a big statement to say that track is as good as Helpless. But I genuinely think it is. It's a really excellent song, with again excellent lyrics. So yeah, that's really a big recommendation on this album. And I think I talk about the reflective tone and the track Thankful, which is the album close on here. Again, it's a really relaxed tune. It's a really reflective tune. And I'm just reading the lyrics here. And obviously he's conscious of his age. The opener to Thankful is, the opening line is, I've been piling on the years, full of laughter and sometimes tears. When I look at what we've done, when I think of all the fun, I'm thankful for the way I feel. And he goes on to say, it's really quite emotional. The days of life, the days of birth, if we can stay here for some more, if we can open heaven's door, I'll be thankful. Well, Neil, I'm thankful for this album, for me, this is a 9 out of 10 record. It's absolutely exceptional. Very enjoyable listen. I'm looking forward to getting to know it more, over the coming weeks, months, years. And as with all good albums, you hear more, the more listens, the more time you invest. And I'm looking forward to investing that time. But Neil, I know this is a very age-conscious album for you, and you're thankful, but we're thankful for your career and your continual input into this musical journey that you're on. And as a fan and as an appreciator of your music, I just hope that there'll be more, much more to come over the years to come. So great album. Give it a listen and let me know what you think. Thank you for listening.